What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood. He's the managing editor at State of the U. Go check out their stuff, stateoftheu.com. Some good articles up there as we speak. I was just reading a breakdown of the top teams in the state of Florida with some good data-driven analysis. Go check out that article. I am Brian the Beast London. I am in charge of absolutely nothing. So, it's okay. I don't have to be in charge.
Hey, you're in charge of this, man. You're driving the recording and everything.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean, only just because, but whatever. In any event, Cam and his staff do a great job of State of the U. So go check it out. You can follow Cam on the X at Underwood Sports. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Cam, we do have spring practice to get to. The first three practices are in the book, but almost more importantly than spring practice is the recruiting and the signing and the commitments that are happening this time of year. University of Miami's picked up two huge commitments this week. We are recording this Friday evening. They just got one that we thought was coming down the line, but is unofficially official, officially unofficial, whatever it is. It's not binding, but they did get a verbal commitment from the outstanding defensive back out of Armwood in Jaelan Waters. Not a surprise, but huge news.
Not a surprise, like you're talking about. Definitely huge news. Also, both of those things being true. So Jaelan Waters is a 6'2", about 175, 180 pound defensive back. He's only a junior in high school, guys. So he has time to grow into 190, 195 pounds, looking like a pro. He's 17 years old, so relax. But at this point of development, is well built and super athletic. He stars for Armwood, was teammates with Gerard Pringle, who's an early enrollee at Miami this year. So in the 25 recruiting class, high school teammates with him. Last year for Armwood team, they got to the regional finals of the FHSAA playoffs. And this is a guy who is just elite, no matter how you want to slice it. His nickname is Seatbelt because, you can't do the throat slash anymore, so everybody's doing you're locked up like a seatbelt celebration. So that's been his nickname for a while. So that speaks to his prowess in coverage. This is a kid that pretty much everybody in America wanted. He was previously committed to both Florida State and Florida in that order, and was committed to Florida when Will Harris, the new safeties, I believe is what he's coaching here in Miami, when he was up in Gainesville, and then left, and Jaelan Waters tweeted out an eye roll or a bruh kind of emoji. And Miami had been trending in his recruitment anyways. Right. And then you add on top his main recruiter then matriculated down south from Gainesville to Coral Gables. Bob's your uncle. It's just a matter of time. And after an unofficial visit to practice today, Jaelan Waters was the second player to commit this week and the fifth overall in this class. Big news.
Yeah, and you said it was the second this week. I'm not going to say it was bigger news, but I think to me more surprising news for a couple of reasons was the commitment of the offensive. Well, I think he projects to be an offensive lineman. He's played both ways in high school, but the very big 6'7" Ben Congdon out of Mineral City, Ohio. I'll let you pronounce his high school if you want to take a stab at it. I'm going to stay away from it, but the thing about Ben Congdon to me is one, Miami's going to continue to build that front, the offensive line. They're going to continue to show that they produce great offensive linemen with Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal. But to go to Ohio and grab one of these heavily coveted kids, one of these kids that, that Penn State wanted and a lot of those Big Ten schools were looking after, that's not usually something that Miami does. So to me, that kind of said something about what Mario and Alex and the entire staff are able to do now that they've kind of built up their reputation of being able to build up offensive linemen.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big win. Tuscarawas Valley is the name of the high school in Zora, Ohio, which is in east central southern kind of. It's south of Massillon and whatnot.
East central southern Ohio.
It's east, the middle, but I looked up on the map earlier, but basically middle of Nowheresville. is where he's
Okay.
from. So he plays for a smaller high school because he's from a small town. Like, go
Right.
look up where Zora, Ohio is. It's not near anywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with that because he's an outlier physically. 6'7", 6'8"-ish, 285 pounds. He's currently in the state wrestling tournament, wrestling in the heavyweight division at, I believe, 282 pounds is what he weighed in at, and then won his first match this week. But this is a relationship that has been building for a while between Miami and Congdon. There was a picture recently of Mirabal and Cristobal visiting him at his high school in the middle of Nowheresville, and just had cultivated that relationship. And we've seen relationships being the driving force in recruiting for many, many years. Even if you go back to like Avante Williams, just trust me on that one, right?
Okay.
Lorenzo Lingard's cousin.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was going to Florida. Florida famously had the cookie cakes with the Tay-Day and the orange and blue. And then he was like, fam, they've been recruiting me since I was in 7th grade. Like relationship. What are we talking about? I think that is similar, but a shorter time span with Ben Congdon. We've been consistent in the messaging, consistent in the connection. And like he, in his interviews after committing, Congdon said that like he and his family are big on like, just loyalty, being there and, always showing up the same. He also loves the fact that Miami, even the staff, even from the time in Oregon, has really shown a propensity for developing offensive linemen, taking them from where they are to the next levels. And he's really looking to do that. So, yeah, I mean, he plays both ways in high school because you don't find many 6'7", 6'8", 285-pound dudes. So, like, yeah, offensive line and defensive line, much more of a run blocker than pass blocker presently. Probably profiles on the right side more than the left.
Right tackle, probably?
Probably right tackle. If he's unable to do that, maybe you kick him inside like a Mekhi Becton with the Eagles and make him a gigantic guard and just say, hey, go maul somebody because you're way, way, way bigger than them. But yeah, probably looking at, I mean, he is legit the size that we're saying that he is. So he has the body type to be an offensive tackle. A very vocal guy, wants to be a leader in this recruiting class, and has subsequently shut down his recruiting. He said, hey, this was basically a Miami win head up against Penn State for this guy. And he said, I'm not taking the visits. I was scheduled to go to Penn State. I'm not going anywhere else. Like I said, they were loyal to me. I am loyal to them. That is a Congdon family tenet and belief. So I'm dialed in, trying to recruit other guys to come join him. And that's a good addition to start building the next iteration of the offensive line moving forward.
Yeah, and I think somewhere in my vast, minuscule brain, which is a contradiction, vast and minuscule. Yeah, whatever. It's kind of like East, South, Central Ohio.
East, South, Central Ohio. Yeah, exactly.
I think he put out a post, or someone else put out a post about him, that he was looking forward to starting to get other kids to come down to Miami.
Yeah, he said
he said it. So you love those kind of kids. But as you look at this class, Cam, I mean, it starts at the quarterback position with a guy that Miami has coveted for a long time and has in the mix in Darian Coleman out of Jones in Orlando. Mm-hmm. They got the linebacker Jordan Campbell out of Carroll City. Clinton Portis's kid, Camden Portis, right? Playing cornerback. We talked about Jaelan Waters. We talked about Ben Congdon. So Miami is off to a great start as far as getting those commits for 2026. So it never stops. But springtime now is you're going to see a bunch of kids come rolling through here.
No, absolutely. I mean, you got spring break season coming up. I mean, like literally now, this is why guys were there. Like, a whole crew of guys from Chaminade were on campus today for practice because Chaminade didn't have school today going into, it was a teacher planning day before their spring break. So, boom. The staff is going to be on campus while the students are on spring break. I think there are going to be other, players visiting. And there's just been a parade, a cavalcade of blue chip recruits coming to campus. And I didn't really want to put out the energy of like negativity in recruiting, but the finish to the 2025 class was not to the standard that we needed it to be. Period, point blank, end of story. And I wanted to see different results this year. And early on, we seem to be doing things differently to get a different result than what we had most recently received at early signing day. So, 5 commits at this point, pretty much all of them blue chip, I believe. or around that 4-star, 5-star, 4-star level. I don't think there's any 5 stars currently committed, but yeah, all blue chip players, all players at positions of need, in this class, and we will continue to build this roster going forward. But yeah, using this spring and going into the spring official visit season will be really, really key, because a lot of players want to commit early, commit before their senior seasons. For example, Tristan Keys, the number 1 receiver in America from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, visited this week. And he himself said that. He's like, look, he reclassified up from 27 to 26, but season starts in August, trying to be committed before my senior season starts. Going to come down for an official visit down the line, which is great. Miami's pushing to get a second unofficial visit, which I think is really key for especially out-of-state 5 stars. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of players with, big profiles and big names that are coming through campus. And yeah, Miami needs to keep the best players home, or, poach them from other places, like a Tristan Keys, like a Jackson Cantwell, and others.
I want to press you on something you brought up. You said you wanted to see like a kind of a different recruiting outlook or approach or something. You needed to see something different from the end of 25 class to this class. Just if you could roll through a couple bullet points on that, so we can kind of gather what you're thinking on that.
Like getting the visits, first of all, I think the kind of communication, because it's famous, like Cristobal doesn't sleep. He's always up and texting and things like that. But if there's not a two-way street in that conversation, then you're not going to necessarily get the result that you want. So maybe I was looking, and I'm not inside the building, but looking at maybe changing the messaging, looking at, changing up some of the different things, because if you get the feedback from players of like, oh, they went elsewhere. Okay, so what precluded them from coming here? What were the sticking points? I think obviously changing the staff entirely, except for Jason Taylor on defense, was a big step forward. But yeah, okay, what are the focuses? What are we doing on these visits? How are we messaging what we're messaging? Are we messaging the right things and the wrong things? Are we figuring out who the decision makers are? All of these things are things that are in my head, and I don't know. But these are things that I'm considering, and I want to see, hopefully. Now I'm looking at the ends to then show me that the means have changed, right? I was a music teacher. I was a choir teacher for a long time. I can't feel what you feel when you're singing, but I can go by off what I hear, right? So if it sounds right, okay, is your placement, is your posture, I can judge these interior things by your output. This is the approach that I'm taking to Miami recruiting, where I'm looking at the output being substandard. So then there are interior things that can and should change. And whether they are the ones that I'm saying or there are other ones, I don't really care. But I think that proof positive of the output or the income or whatever you want to call it, by getting the recruits that we need and not missing out on so many of them, I think that will speak volumes of the process through which we're recruiting them, having been updated in a way that met the standard.
Yeah, I think the important thing is for Miami to do the absolute best and the most in the things that they can control. Right, like the communication, like the messaging, all that other stuff. I was talking to someone who's very involved in the 7-on-7 world and like all that underbelly of high school athletics yesterday, just talking about other things that happen outside of the things that maybe Miami can control, things that other schools do that Miami may not do, and kind of gray areas and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, well, like if you lose a kid because of X, Y, or Z, as long as you did the most that you can do, I'm okay with it. Now, the public may never know why X kid went to X school because some X, Y, and Z happened. I'm really trying to talk around all of the shadiness, but you got to feel good about your process.
Yes, exactly. You do have to feel good about your process, and I back when it was in the college football video game years ago, I did negative recruit, and I would. But I mean, honestly, if you're doing what you need to do, you're highlighting what you're doing, it kind of shines a negative light on other teams anyway. Because if you're like, hey, we have a good foundation, we actually value high school recruits, we develop guys and we put them in the league with the 5th most invited players to the combine, including 3 wide receivers, Tristan Keys, hello, what's up with it? Then if I just say that to a player, then the flip side of that is, well, Florida State went 2-10. And Da-da-da. I didn't say that, but like that's the thing. So like you're highlighting what you can highlight and control, and then there is a flip side at other schools and things. So yeah, there are a lot of machinations behind the scenes, and also as well. In addition, I'm not ignorant to the fact of like, yeah, we are offering good money in these NIL deals because that's part of the deal now, and everybody used to do it, but it was the bag man. Right. So, people would show up at your porch when you were wavering on your commitment with a duffel bag with $25,000 and a bunch of team gear. I know that for a fact from a guy from down here whose cousin that I know very closely was at the house when this got delivered back in the day. And it's a player with a name at a school that right, that this happened for. So it used to be that, and now it's, hey, we have this Canes connection. There are all these other opportunities in Miami to market yourself and make that money in addition to what we're offering you. And I think that Miami is uniquely placed to be really, really strong in that marketplace. And I think that that's going to be key to obtain some of this super top end talent, both locally and nationally.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, we're going to get to spring practice and kind of some stuff that we've learned through the first three practices.
Okay.
Then I do want to mention that Jay Lucas, that deal is done. It looks like he'll be introduced on Monday. So we'll just touch on that real quick. And then I have another topic I want to get to. I want to see if Cam has any thoughts about something that the University of Miami did and kind of put out there on social media that I'm kind of, as an alum, a little bit wary of. We'll talk about that and more on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor at State of the U. I'm Brian the Beast London. I am not managing editor of really much other than this bottle of water. That's about it. You can follow Cam at Underwood Sports. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Great articles up right now at State of the U. Like I said, a breakdown of the top teams in the state of Florida. Some great recruiting stuff as well. And Cam has that pinned article on the site about the process of recruiting that you need to go read it. It's an unbelievable read. It is a great thing to have nearby during all of this stuff. So continue to go check out the State of the U. It is great content. Cam, spring practice. We are recording this Friday night, 3 practices in the book. I have not been down there. We were efforting a guest to come on and who was down there and, had feet on the ground, if you will. But from what I've been able to talk to people about and the story that I've been getting, and we knew this going in, was Malachi Toney. That's what I keep hearing. Malachi Toney. Now, again, got to just keep it nice and calm. It's spring. The kid's young, blah, blah, blah. But everything I'm hearing, man, I know that today he was amongst the first 3 out there as far as starting wideouts with JoJo and Naikar. He's made himself known that he's ready to come and play.
That was a welcomed sight. That was backed up by all videos. Like I retweeted one from Adam Lichtenstein of the Sun Sentinel where they line up in ordinal number, well, not by their jersey numbers, but wide receiver 1, 2, 3, like your ranking in the room. And he was like Malachi Toney was in front of Ray Joseph, saw it with my own eyes, hold on, he's at the front of the line there. And that's really outstanding. I mean, again, Mr. Football in the state of Florida, won the Nat Moore Award, another guy who reclassified up. So he's like a junior, but better than all the seniors locally and everything, and then he hits campus early. And, shout out to Dalen Upshaw and Josh Moore, the other freshman receivers. It's freshmen and sophomores are going to run the receiver room right now.
Yeah.
And there's only one junior in Ray Joseph, and then the senior in CJ Daniels is recovering from a heel injury. Remember, he will be factored in, played at Liberty, played at LSU a little bit, and then got hurt. It's 5 of the 6 at the top of the 2 deep are, Ray Joseph. Sorry, Ray is a junior, but Naikar and JoJo Trader are sophomores. Right. And then Dalen Upshaw, Josh Moore, and Malachi Toney are freshmen. And that's 5 of your top 6 receivers right now. So, I mean, I don't know if he wants to push forward for playing time, but like Chance Robinson, even as a redshirt freshman, looking like, hey, might have even got directly recruited over one class on. And hey, it's incumbent upon him to do the work, but we're going to keep bringing in elite blue chip talents and pushing them forward. So yeah, Malachi Toney and others, but yeah, that's been a real breath of fresh air for what he's been doing through 3 days of spring, and it's only 3 days of spring, and it's on air, and like 7 or one-on-ones and everything. It's not in game in Tallahassee down by 4 with 2 seconds left. I'm not saying it's all that, but yeah, the early returns are looking good.
So I want to look at the other side of this equation, which is the Ray Joseph side of the equation. And did I have higher expectations for him last year to get more involved? Probably. His opportunities mostly came in the return game, but they didn't really do much with that.
Yeah.
I was a little let down there. Coming into this season, I really wanted him to be a guy to take a step forward, especially after you lost all that talent. And I'm just wondering, he's got to feel the pressure, right? Like, to see a guy that just literally came in to take a spot ahead of him. I'm just wondering how that goes.
I mean, this is where we find out what he's made of. Like, I mean,
right.
are you flaky? Are you made of sterner stuff? You know what I mean? Like, it's only 3 days in spring. There haven't been any like scrimmages. There hasn't been spring game. There hasn't been fall camp. All these things. But like, yeah, if the first 3 days of practice, and it's not just been practice, because like Malachi Toney's been here since January, been the first one in and the last one out of the facility at every available opportunity. So you've been seeing that. If you don't have the intrinsic internal motivation at this point, now you got external motivation, because this guy is coming for your spot. Like, you got to go and make it happen. Saw, a couple of reports from people saying, that Ray Joseph has really been working on his body to slim down a little bit to get quicker again, which is a thing that I've been talking about, that fast guys need to be fast on this roster, not packing weight onto everybody like Anthony Chickalo. God darn it. So I'm really interested to see, okay, if he's taking the time to focus on working on his body, is he also taking the time to work on his skills to showcase those? But you still have, you got a week of spring break, and then you got 4 more weeks of practice past that, then a whole off season where, hopefully by, June or July, Carson Beck will be throwing. So you're working with your quarterback heading into the fall. So, there's plenty of time. I just think that he was a little bit hamstrung in terms of prior performance by the fact that he was sitting behind the all-time career leading receiver at the University of Miami. Like, and it was, he did this at Edison and he can get on the field. The number 1 all-time receiver by statistics was the one in front of him. Guys, we're not taking Xavier Restrepo, respectively, off the field for Ray Joseph, even though Ray Joseph is probably a better athlete, and has more home run potential. Come on, like, be real. You know what I mean? So yeah, it will be interesting to see if Ray Joseph steps up to the challenge, because Malachi Toney is throwing down the gauntlet, saying, hey, I don't care who you are, I'm coming for somebody's spot. And if he plays slot and you play slot, it means he's coming for yours. So Ray, what you got?
I guess all the other stories on offense that I was able to gather this week is, one, everyone loves this running back room led by Mark Fletcher, with Jordan Lyle and Pringle and those cats. And they're not only kind of competing with each other, but also pushing each other and rooting for each other. So that is a good thing. We have basically, a kind of everyone's getting to know each other tight end room. But Elijah Lofton continues to show that he's kind of trying to rise up the ranks. And he talked about, listen, if I have to, I'll line up in the backfield, I'll line up wide out, I'll line up at tight end, wherever you need me, that's where I'll go. So that's a good thing. And then, of course, the offensive line is always going to be a strength of this team. And I was just really pleased to see, they added the center, James Brockermeyer from TCU. He's come in, he's going to start at center. We're doing this thing again where we have the portal center, but he's really kind of taken some leadership, even though he's brand new to the group, but he's a veteran, has a lot of snaps underneath his belt. So that's good. As we move to defense, though, I think, to me, I don't know about you, but I just wanted to see how the staff operated, right?
Yeah.
With Hetherman as the new coordinator and with a bunch of new assistant coaches just getting into the mix. How is the staff going to operate? How are they going to get themselves to know the players, to know the coaches, how to know the staff, all that stuff. And it looks like so far so good. And I really love Corey Hetherman's energy and his I think he's I love his Boston accent too, but but I think he's you can tell he's a powerful voice on that field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to see what does this look like now? You got a lot of new guys and pushing for new spots and everything. But your boy Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin,
yeah. Yep.
Looking like the truth. Zachariah Poyser, who was a freshman All-American at Jacksonville State, by the way.
Yep.
Looking like the truth also in the secondary. Dylan Day, Lance Guidry's find from Louisiana, the 3-star safety who was a special teams demon last year, looking like he's pushing for playing time. Justin Scott and Armando Blunt reworking their bodies, seeing Gabby Urrutia saying, hey, I'm buying all the Armando Blunt stock possible. Just seeing him, seeing Ruben Bain looking like Ruben Bain again, another guy who said that he dropped about 10 or 15 pounds in the pursuit of a little bit more quickness. Hint, hint, hint is what I've been talking about. Akeem Mesidor saying that he loves the defense. Justin Scott just saying, hey, the terminology is just so much clearer and easier to understand this year as opposed to last. And that speaks volumes to a level of confusion because remember, Justin Scott played last year. He didn't redshirt. He played in 8 or 9 games. So you're putting him out there and being like, okay, well, we're going to do that. What? It's cool. We're going to go. Gotcha, coach. I understand what that one is, So just even hearing that kind of stuff and whatnot. But yeah, there are snaps to be won at pretty much every position. Loving the competition, loving the development, and just seeing all of the tons of new guys in the secondary, stepping up into the roles that we desire them to have, even 3 days on, in head, and helmets and shoulder pads only. I'm a fan.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see what it looks like once we get to the spring game, right? Once they have a whole month of practice and going through and learning the system and all that stuff. I was also really happy to see that Wesley Bizanth is going to play inside and outside. That kind of shows his maturity and his versatility. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to see how Hetherman does coaching those linebackers, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real – look, everywhere on defense needs to get better. But, I think that if you look at Wesley and Popo Aguirre probably as your starters, unless Wesley gets unseated, which, is possible, but I don't necessarily predict. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. And then what the rotation looks like in linebacker because, you got a Chase Smith who's, flashing his athleticism because he's still on campus. You got Cameron Bobby Pruitt. You got Bobby Washington. You got, Adarius Hayes. You got Kellen Wiley, even as a true freshman. You got more than enough gourmet ingredients there to make a really, Michelin star meal, Corey Hetherman. So I want to see what you're doing.
Yeah. You're going to get me with the food references every time.
Every time.
Whatchamacallit. Before we get to the serious topic, Jay Lucas, deal is done. Introduced probably on Monday. Yep. I think this is the more I hear about Jay Lucas and talk to people, the more I think this is really the right hire at the right time. Obviously I may or may not have been biased by them, by him getting endorsed by LeBron James and Dwayne Wade.
Among many others, by the way.
Yeah. Among many others. He obviously curries a lot of favor in the basketball world. And yep. I think this is a really smart hire as opposed to, I don't want to take shots, but the school up in Tallahassee is hiring a new basketball coach. And that one's a little bit questionable, but anyways, we'll stick with our own guy. I think it's a good hire. I can't wait to see the introductory press conference and hopefully have a new path forward for University of Miami basketball.
Yeah, we talked with Dookie Lang last week, and I was firmly on the path of this is the right hire, and this is the time to take a big grand slam swing, because if we waited and tried to circle back in a couple of years, I don't think that Jay Lucas would come to the University of Miami, to be perfectly honest, So like all of the stars aligned were like, he's going to step up into a head coaching role. Why not let that first role be here at the University of Miami? He's a tough-nosed guy. And as somebody who was renowned for their defense when I played basketball, hearing him say, hey, I'm defensive minded. We're going to be tough, nothing free in the paint. Like, I grew up in Detroit in the 80s and 90s, Bad Boys, Pistons. Like, literally, I remember my coaches screaming, nothing free in the paint. That's like an ethos of my life. And hearing Jay Lucas say that, I'm with it. And then let's go get some elite talent. Let's go out there, build a great staff and everything. And it is unfortunate for the Duke Blue Devils, but he's leaving at the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
To take the job at Miami because the transfer portal exists and opens in like during the tournament. Like, so you cannot be there on a staff going into the second weekend in April, potentially playing for, because they have designs on a national championship and they're probably the front runners right now, and then miss out on everything else that's going on to build the team that you're going to be coaching. So, I think it was just, and I saw plenty of articles about it. It's just an unfortunate situation that the timing with everything leads to like, hey, I've been here for a couple of years and I'm bought into all this stuff with, all the guys here and even the future recruits coming. But I got a new job and I got to go handle that. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I think this is definitely the right move. And I can't wait to see what Jay Lucas and the Hurricanes get up to.
We'll have more on the basketball staff makeup because I think there's some great names that are going to come out about who might be on that staff.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that next week. But I do want to get to one issue. So I was hesitant. You and I talked about it before the show, whether I was going to bring this up or not. As those of you that are listening and watching know, both Cam and I are proud graduates of the University of Miami. And I think a lot of times because we went to school there, we walked around that lake every single day of our lives. We put our time into being a part of that community. Yeah. Sometimes things hit us a little bit, or hit me, I'm going to speak for myself, a little bit differently than it might hit just the average fan or average media member. So it is with those orange and green alumni glasses on that I present this, which is today, and we're talking Friday. I'm recording this Friday. We're recording this Friday. The University of Miami evidently sent former NFL coach, former ESPN analyst, John Gruden, a box of swag. Which, whatever. If they want to send them a box of swag, they can send them a box of swag. But what I didn't appreciate, which I'll get into, was them kind of putting it out there on their socials as if to say, hey, look at us. Look at what we did. Yay, John Gruden got a bunch of stuff. Now, obviously, the irony was not lost that there was a point in time where Gary Furman had us all believing that John Gruden was going to be the next coach of the University of Miami. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Confirmed. But that's neither here nor there. But lest we forget, and Cam, I think, had actually forgotten, and I had pretty much forgotten all about John Gruden until I saw his picture today. But he did some really bad things and said some really, really bad things that got him pretty much banned from the NFL. Some really racist, bad things that got him thrown out as the coach of the Raiders, got fired, and has not been back anywhere coaching since. And is now working for Barstool, which you can read into that
in itself. I was like to say that by itself kind of tells the story.
Exactly. And it just, to me, is like, listen, I understand the news cycle is even faster now than it was yesterday, but it just rubbed me the wrong way, Cam. It's like, listen, I'm willing to give people second chances. I'm willing to let them rehab their whole, like, whatever. Okay. But I just was like, I expect more from my alma mater. Especially like if we're going to, like the majority of the kids that play on your football team are black. And I would think that maybe you would not support outright racists, but evidently that happened. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. I know I'm throwing this at you. I didn't give you much time to think about it, but do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was telling you, like I am 100% a grudge holder. If you guys follow me on social, anytime anybody tweets anything about Brian Kelly, I'm on that man's neck because he sent Declan Sullivan to his certain death in the name of practice video, and I will never forget it. So either I do that, or I banish you to the land of eternal silence, and like you don't exist in my universe. And that's where I am with John Gruden. Like you've proven to me that you are racist of the highest order. Or, I mean, honestly, kind of a mid-level order because, like, racism really
there's higher, yeah.
Exactly. But when I saw that and everything, I'm like, cool, like, bye. And then, I saw the retweets and everything coming down the timeline, and I'm like, cool. And I saw the tag, like, Barstool Gruden, and like I said earlier, like, I mean, that just goes against my personal view and everything. I'm like, cool, whatever. And I just kept scrolling. Like, I didn't even look or see, and like I saw that there was orange and green there, but like I didn't kind of go into that or like whatever. But I understand where your negative emotion comes from. For me, like he's already been locked in the land of eternal silence and everything, so I didn't even really, it didn't even hit with me like, oh, the University of Miami did this thing. Like on further consideration, do I think that it's abhorrent? Absolutely. Would I have been, would I have signed off on it? Were I, in the Hecht Athletic Center and, in the, marketing department of the athletic department? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not have. But yeah, in so much, I just really don't even think about it and, whatever. So, I mean, yeah, I know that you have really big emotions about it and like, hey, that's fair and everything. And like, yeah, is it angering like that? You brought it across like my quote unquote desk or my purview. Yeah. But hey, I'm going to continue to move on and ignore John Gruden. And that's just kind of my thing about it. But like, it is like a little, I hate that my alma mater did it as well. That's just kind of where I am with it.
All right. No, that makes sense. And that's fair. And listen, is it going to ruin, like, I'll be able to sleep tonight, but it's something that kind of threw me off.
No, absolutely.
Kind of like I expect more out of you, but maybe I shouldn't. That's a whole different conversation. All right, we'll have a lot to get to next week. I do want to get in. Maybe I'll try to effort Michelle Kaufman actually, who is the preeminent coverer of all things Miami Hurricanes basketball for next week, because I think we're going to find out not only Jay Lucas, but the makeup of the staff and kind of the way he wants to recruit, and all this stuff is going to be really exciting. So we'll talk about that next week. And whatever else comes down the line recruiting-wise and all that other stuff, we'll have it for you right here. Don't forget, go read all the Cam stuff and all the rest of the stuff from his staff at stateoftheu.com. It is really great content. Go there right now, if not sooner. And we will see you next time right here, the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.